You know what's funny? Most of us are sitting on a goldmine of features in our car, and we barely touch half of them. The technology is there to make driving easier, safer, and even more fun. But because we don't know what those mysterious buttons and letters actually do, they stay hidden in plain sight. In this video, you'll discover things about your car you never knew. From the little plus and minus signs on your shifter to the OD button nobody ever explained. We're unlocking 12 car features you're not using, but absolutely should be. And let me know in the comments how many you already knew. Number 12. Tiptronic, manual shift mode. Let's start with something you've probably seen on your gear shifter. Those little plus and minus signs next to the D. That's Tiptronic, or manual shift mode. Most people never touch it, but it's like a secret manual transmission hiding in your automatic. With a quick nudge of the shifter, you can take control of your gears, dropping down for extra power when you're passing on the highway, or holding a lower gear when you're carving down a winding road. It's not just for fun either. If you're driving in the mountains, this feature can help you manage steep climbs without the car hunting for gears. It also gives you engine braking on descents, saving your brakes from overheating. And speaking of control, that brings us to a feature that's quietly working in the background every time your wheels start to slip. Number 11. Traction control. Now here's one that most people know exists but don't really understand. Traction control. It's that little light that flashes on your dashboard when your tires lose grip, maybe in the rain, maybe on an icy patch. What traction control does is cut power to your wheels just enough to help them regain grip, keeping you from spinning out. For most drivers, it's best to leave it on. It makes winter roads safer, it helps on gravel, and it's your invisible safety net in bad conditions. But here's the twist. Sometimes turning it off actually gives you more control. For example, if you're stuck in deep snow or mud, traction control can cut too much power, leaving you stuck. Switch it off and suddenly you can rock the car free. Enthusiast drivers also like disabling it on dry roads for a more raw driving feel. So while it's a feature that operates in the background, knowing when to trust it and when to let it rest can really change how you drive. And that idea of hidden power leads us perfectly into another button that confuses drivers: the mysterious OD light on your transmission. Number 10. Overdrive, or OD. Have you ever been on the highway and noticed a button marked OD or a light flickering on and off? That's overdrive, and it's not nearly as complicated as people make it out to be. Think of it as your car's way of stretching its legs. When overdrive is on, your transmission shifts into its highest gear, lowering your RPMs, saving fuel, and giving you a quieter, smoother ride. Perfect for cruising down long open highways. But there's a reason you can switch it off. When you're towing, climbing hills, or driving somewhere that demands more pulling power, you actually don't want the transmission hunting for that high gear. Turning overdrive off keeps you in the lower gears, giving you better throttle response and more control. It's a small button with a big effect on how your car feels, especially if you do a lot of highway driving. And while overdrive keeps things efficient at high speed, what about when the weather closes in and visibility drops? That's where our next feature really shines, literally. Number 9. Fog lights. Now here's a feature that almost feels like decoration to most drivers: fog lights. Those small, low-mounted lights are often overlooked because people assume their regular headlights are sufficient. But when the weather turns nasty, fog lights make a huge difference. Unlike your headlights, which beam straight out and bounce glare back into your eyes in poor conditions, fog lights spread their glow low and wide. They illuminate the road directly in front of your tires and cut through the haze, giving you a clearer view of the lane markings and obstacles. It's not about lighting up the whole road. It's about giving you the right light exactly where you need it. And here's the kicker. Using them properly can actually reduce eye strain and help other drivers see you better. They're one of those features that's not flashy, but once you've used them in the right conditions, you'll never forget the difference. But fog lights shine in tough conditions at low speeds. So what about those times you actually want your car to stay low geared, even when the weather's fine? Number 8. Low gear. Look down at your gear shifter and you might see letters like L, or sometimes just numbers like 1 and 2. That's low gear, and it's one of the most underused tools in your car. Most people just throw the car in D and let it do its thing, but low gear locks the transmission into its lower ratios. Why does that matter? Think steep hills. Instead of your brakes doing all the work on a long downhill, low gear lets the engine slow the car. Something called engine braking. That means less heat on your brakes and more control. It's also incredibly useful when towing or when you need extra torque at low speeds, like crawling out of a muddy track or maneuvering a trailer. It gives you grunt when you need it most. So while L might look like just another letter you'll never touch, it can be a lifesaver in specific driving situations. And speaking of letters on the shifter, there's one that a lot more people know, but few really understand. You've probably seen it and wondered, what does sport mode actually do? Number 7, sport mode, or S/sport. Ah, yes, sport mode. This one gets more attention, but it's often misunderstood. Flick that switch or bump your shifter into S, and suddenly the car feels more alive. The throttle sharpens, the transmission holds gears longer, and in some cars, the steering and suspension even tighten up. In performance-tuned models, it can even change the exhaust note, giving you that satisfying growl when you accelerate. It's designed for moments when you want the car to respond quickly and feel more connected to the road. Perfect for highway merges, twisty back roads, or when you simply want driving to feel a little more exciting. But of course, there's a trade-off. More fuel burned, and in some cases a bit more wear on the mechanicals if you keep it engaged all the time. Still, it's one of those features that turns your everyday drive into something special. And while sport mode is all about turning the car up a notch, sometimes the smarter move is about keeping the outside world out. That's where the next button comes in. Number 6, air recirculation button. Here's one that's hiding in plain sight on almost every dashboard. The little button with a car outline and a circular arrow inside. That's your air recirculation button, and most people either ignore it or just mash it without knowing what it actually does. When it's on, your car takes the air that's already inside the cabin and cycles it back through the system instead of constantly pulling in air from outside. In the summer, that means your AC cools the air faster and keeps it colder, because it's not fighting with hot, humid air from outside. In the winter, it can help keep the warm air circulating more evenly. And of course, if you're stuck in traffic behind a smoky truck or driving past farmland with some unpleasant aromas, it's your best defense against breathing all that in. But here's the catch. Leave it on too long in winter and your windows might start fogging up because the moisture has nowhere to go. So, it's a tool, not a set and forget. The point is, this button gives you more control over your comfort than you realize. And speaking of little things in the car that you probably overlooked, let's move to something even smaller and way more mysterious. Those tiny hooks hiding by your seats. Number 5, hooks by the seats. If you've ever folded your rear seats down, you might have noticed them. Small, sturdy hooks near the side of the seat back. Some people think they're for hanging grocery bags. Others assume they're just random parts of the frame. But they actually have a purpose that most drivers never figure out. They're designed to hold the parcel shelf or cargo cover when you fold the seats down. Instead of tossing that awkward shelf into your garage or letting it rattle around in your trunk, you can hook it neatly out of the way. It's one of those clever little engineering touches that saves space and keeps your car organized. Of course, you can improvise, hang a shopping bag, a small backpack, or even keep something lightweight from sliding around. But their real purpose shows just how much thought goes into car design, even in places you'd never expect. Now, that's a hidden feature you can actually see. But what about a feature that only reveals itself if you press and hold a button you've probably used thousands of times? Let's talk about the secret trick built right into your car key. Number 4, key-fob windows down trick. Here's one of my favorite, wait, my car can do that moments. Your key-fob's hidden window control. For many cars, if you press and hold the unlock button on your remote, the windows will all roll down automatically. Some cars even tilt the sunroof open, giving you instant airflow. Now, why does this matter? Picture a sweltering summer day. You're walking toward your car across the parking lot, and instead of opening the door and sitting inside an oven, you hold that button and let all the heat escape before you even get in. It feels like a magic trick the first time you try it. It can also help with quick defogging on chilly mornings. Just drop all the windows for a few seconds, clear the condensation, and then roll them back up. Simple, effective, and oddly satisfying. The funny part is, most owners never know this feature exists because it's barely mentioned in the manual, if at all. But once you discover it, you'll never go back. And while this one is all about convenience and comfort, the next feature dives into how you can actually shape the entire driving experience. Number 3. Eco or comfort modes. Now, if sport mode is about making your car feel sharper and more aggressive, eco and comfort modes are about dialing things back. These are the features designed for the real world, the daily commute, the long road trip, the endless red lights where you're just trying to save a little gas and keep your ride smooth. When you switch to eco mode, your car changes its entire personality. Throttle response gets softer so you don't waste fuel on hard launches. The transmission shifts earlier to keep the engine in its most efficient range. And in some cars, even the climate control system dials back to save energy. Hybrid and EV drivers see this all the time. The car coasts more, regenerates more energy, and stretches every drop of power. Then there's comfort mode, which focuses on, well, exactly that. It softens the suspension, lightens up the steering, and smooths out the transmission shifts. It's about making your drive feel less like work and more like floating from point A to point B. What's cool is that these modes let you tailor your car to your mood and your situation. One day you're saving fuel on the commute, the next you're gliding comfortably down the highway. It's a reminder that modern cars aren't one size fits all. They adapt. And speaking of adapting, the next feature is like cruise control but smarter. Much smarter. Number 2. Adaptive cruise control. We all know basic cruise control. Set a speed, take your foot off the pedal, and relax a little. But adaptive cruise control takes that old idea and injects some serious intelligence into it. Here's how it works. Your car uses radar or cameras to see the vehicles in front of you. Instead of just holding your set speed no matter what, adaptive cruise automatically adjusts your speed to maintain a safe distance. If traffic slows, your car slows down. If traffic clears, it brings you back up to your set speed, all without you touching the pedal. On the highway, this is a game changer. Long drives suddenly feel less exhausting because the car is handling the little accelerations and decelerations. Some systems even handle stop-and-go traffic, bringing you to a complete stop and then resuming when the car ahead moves again. It doesn't mean you can zone out. You still need to steer and stay alert, but it reduces the constant micro adjustments that wear you down on long trips. It's one of those features that once you experience it, you'll never want to go back to regular cruise control again. And here's the interesting thing. As cars get more advanced with features like this, manufacturers are realizing something surprising. Sometimes the smartest upgrade isn't more technology at all. It's actually less. That brings us to the last feature on the list. Number 1. Physical buttons versus touchscreens. Over the past decade, car makers fell in love with touchscreens. Everything got shoved behind digital menus. Climate control, radio, seat heaters, even the hazard lights in some wild cases. It looked futuristic, but in practice, drivers got frustrated, hunting through menus just to adjust the fan speed while driving at 70 miles per hour isn't just annoying, it's dangerous. That's why there's been a shift back to physical buttons and knobs for the essentials. They're quicker, more intuitive, and most importantly, you can use them without taking your eyes off the road. There's something reassuring about feeling the click of a button or the turn of a dial. It's instant feedback and it makes driving safer. It's not about rejecting technology. Screens are great for maps, backup cameras, and infotainment. But when it comes to the things you need to adjust constantly and quickly, tactile controls just work better. Car makers like Volkswagen, Hyundai, and even luxury brands are quietly reintroducing buttons because drivers demand it. In a way, it closes the loop on our list. From hidden features like Tiptronic and OD that put control back in your hands, to this, an industry-wide realization that sometimes the most valuable feature is the simplest one. That's a dozen features you probably overlooked, but now you won't. Which one surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments.